Coming up next on Hands on Windows, we're going to take a look at passkeys and security keys, a brand new way and an existing way to better secure your online accounts, including your Microsoft account.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
The following show is brought to you through the generosity of people like you. Thanks.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hands on Windows. In keeping with the topic from last week's show, I thought I'd continue the security theme and move on to passkeys and security keys. Passkeys is a brand new security feature that is now natively supported in Windows 11, as it is across all online accounts, Microsoft account, Microsoft Work and School account, Amazon, Apple, Google, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to see passkeys everywhere. We'll get into what that means in a bit. And also security keys, which have been around for a long time, actually, but have now adapted to this modern world and actually work with passkeys. So they're kind of a new way, well, an existing way to use a new thing, or it's a different way to use passkeys, essentially. So some really interesting and useful security advances occurring across the ecosystem, not just in Windows, but in all of our devices. So the goal here is for a passwordless access to our online accounts. This is the dream, with the ultimate goal of actually getting rid of passwords if possible. But it also has to be open, universal, secure, and convenient, right? This is the trick for a lot of people. A couple of additional steps to securing an account, and every time they want to access their account, using their phone and typing in codes and things is a little too much work. And so passwordless technologies like passkeys especially actually make this even more convenient. And I think that's why they've become so successful. And that's why all the major account holders, again, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft have all adopted this, integrated it into their platforms, and integrated it into their secure devices. And that really is the key. The thing that makes this work is that when you access a Windows 11 computer, it has a TPM in it, which is a security chip that is encrypted. It is physically separated in some way from the rest of the system, so it can't be attacked easily. It integrates with secure sign-in technologies like Windows Hello PIN and biometric methods like facial recognition or fingerprint recognition and so forth. And we have these similar controls and similar chipsets on our phones and tablets, Chromebooks, Macs, whatever. It's everywhere. And so this entire ecosystem of devices now is secure and is starting to use the same type of secure, I'm going to call it multi-factor authentication, two-step authentication in the Microsoft world, but for consumers anyway. But it's all kind of come together. And so now in Windows 11, we have this really good experience with both passkeys and security keys. So what are passkeys? It's a passwordless authentication technology. It works for both sign-in and verification against online accounts. We're going to talk mostly about Microsoft accounts here today, but when you sign in to your computer, when you sign into your online account through a web browser or an app, this technology resides on your computer and it can interact with the online account in a very secure way and authenticate you. Again, it relies on those modern devices that have the secure encrypted storage, right? Security chip like a TPM. It requires an additional sign-in, or at least a step. That's typically a PIN or biometric sign-in. It is, end-to-end secure, seamless, right? So it's convenient and secure. And then the thing that separates this from, say, a Microsoft Authenticator app or another Authenticator app is that you would configure multiple accounts on this one device, and every time you signed in somewhere else, you could okay it here in some way. With passkeys, you actually are putting a credential in that secure storage in the TPM or similar security chip for every single account. And with PCs at least, although I think this is going to change, that passkey is specific to that computer. You can't typically, this isn't always true, but you can't typically use it to authenticate on another device. One of the interesting things with passkeys on mobile is that I could, in Windows, use Edge or a third-party browser and sign into some online site for which I have a passkey on my phone. And I could actually select passkey And then it would say, do you want to do this on your phone or on this device? And you can choose the phone, and you can actually authenticate here like you would an authenticator app and have it pass through on the computer. The reverse isn't true typically. That's not 100% true, but I think that's where that's heading. But right now, I would say for Windows, consider Passkeys to be specific to that computer. If you have multiple computers, multiple online accounts, you're going to need to have a different passkey on every computer for every account, right? So they're specific to the device. When you think about Windows 11, and specifically as we do here, a couple of interesting things to talk about with passkeys. One is that Microsoft has been working on the technology behind passkeys for decades. They've worked with the industry. This is something that came up outside of Microsoft, actually. The passkeys, as they're implemented today, is an open standard, but this is work Microsoft did many years ago on things like Longhorn and Secure Computing Base, Trustworthy Computing. They helped design the first TPM chips, those Trusted Platform Module chips we have now in computers. You may know that a TPM 2.0 chipset is a requirement, right, for Windows 11. This is part of the reason why. And that these technologies are kind of the minimum, combined with Windows Hello, right, PIN and biometric sign-in, to implement passkeys on a device, right? I didn't know this until fairly recently. In fact, I don't believe Microsoft has ever discussed this. But when you sign into Windows 11 with a Microsoft account or a work or school account, a Microsoft work or school account, you may know that you are required to have a PIN on the device at least. And Microsoft strongly recommends using a biometric Windows Hello method as well. But the reason for that is that under the covers, it is actually creating a passkey on the computer. And you can see that if you go into settings and accounts, and there is a new passkey settings interface. This is new to Windows 11 version 23H2. This wasn't here before. And what this will show you is each of the accounts for which I have configured a passkey on this computer. The paul@thurrott.net one is the account I signed in with. So I didn't actually create that myself. The google.com one is one I did create myself. Because when I signed into Chrome or whatever browser it was, Google does passkeys, right? So there's not much to the management of passkeys in Windows 11 today. If I chose to delete the passkey associated with my sign-in account, it will tell me I can't. And that's because that passkey is required to do that pass-through authentication, right? When I sign into Outlook.com and Edge or an app in Windows 11, it passes that through. So you need that kind of secure chain of, we know, you set this account up in the beginning, you proved that it was you. We stored that credential in that secure storage on the security chip. And now we're going to pass through that authentication to the online service. We're just telling it that it's okay, that you are who you say you are, right? That's how passkeys work. So that's there. Now the Google one, I could actually delete. This one will let me delete it. I won't do that, but I could, right? Okay. Now, because I'm passing through this passkey, it's a little hard to demonstrate, but I'll do something that I did in a previous episode where we use it in private browser because this kind of forces you to sign in. And I'll go to, say, office.com, some site that requires me to use the Microsoft account that I do sign in with. Now, normally this would just pass through, right? I'd go right to office.com and I would be signed in, but I'm kind of forcing the issue here because, sometimes you do actually have to authenticate again. And so we'll just make it happen. It by default wants to send a notification to my phone because that's how I've configured things. I typically use the Microsoft Authenticator app on my phone to prove that I am who I say I am. But you could click this, other ways to sign in, and you can use Windows Hello or a security key. In both keys, it's interesting. They don't actually use the term passkey, but in both cases, this is using a passkey to prove who you are. Now, on this computer, it's a desktop computer. I don't have a Windows Hello compatible fingerprint reader or camera. I'm actually just going to have to type in my PIN, right? So if I click that, it will prompt me to do the PIN. So I will do that. And I've proved who I am. So I've turned on two-step authentication. So for this first time doing this with the passkey, they're actually asking for an additional step. That's good security, by the way. So I will use the biometrics on my phone. But you can see here, if this was a device I actually used all the time and it wasn't incognito or in private, I obviously I wouldn't need to do that. And if I did, I would say it was okay, but I'm not going to worry about that. But I get through and here I am on office.com, right? So I actually did use my phone, but it wasn't the normal authenticated process, and it was a one-time thing. So normally when you think about that extra step you take for good security, when you do a sign-in, type in a username, not typing a password, right? So it's passwordless. You get a prompt on your phone. You do some kind of a thing. You approve it. You get your fingerprint, your face. You might have to type in a code, whatever it might be. That's the additional step. And then it signs you through on the device. Now, this time I had to use the phone, but typically the way that this would work, if I wasn't doing this special incognito browser thing, it would say, hey, we need to prove who you are. And Windows Hello would let me authenticate. So I could do it all in that one device. I don't have to go to the phone. So it's still an additional step. It's still secure. Still get that secure chain front to back, but it doesn't require an additional physical device. And that's actually more convenient, right? So that's part of the reason that Passkeys are so successful. Okay. So I have already configured this. This is Chrome now. So I have signed in, it looks like, with my, I can't keep track of my accounts, my Gmail account. So what I want to do here now is create a passkey for this account. Now, if you install Chrome or sign into a Google website with your Google account, your Gmail account, or your Google Workspace account, you'll typically be asked if you want to create a passkey on the local computer. If you were not, you can actually go to the Google account website, and this will probably pass through. So I got right in. That's great. Go to security. And there are different ways that you can sign into your account, just like we talked about on the Microsoft account website last time. And you could add a passkey directly right here, right? So this is, I use all kinds of different ways to authenticate myself. So I'm going through this stuff. But in this case, what I'm going to do is just allow my password to go through. I'll use Windows Hello. And then what this will do is let me create this passkey, not on the password manager, but on the computer itself, right? So type in my PIN. This is the Windows Hello authentication method. It's told me the passkey is saved, right? Passkey created, great. So Google does a great job with this. Normally this just happens automatically. I did this just so you could kind of see it, but manually through their account website. So now when I go into Windows settings, go to accounts and down to passkey management, you'll see that I have my Google, there it is. So now it's there, right? So in the future, I can authenticate myself to my Gmail account using a passkey on the computer. Doesn't matter where I am. I could be in any web browser. I could be in any app where maybe I'm signing in for, to get email in the mail app or whatever. This will allow me to authenticate myself securely and conveniently on the same device without having to go to a secondary device like a phone, right? So that's the point. that's how it works. That's great. Okay. Now, moving on to security keys, I think that for most people, passkeys are the way to go. And because we're in this transitionary period, you're going to have to maintain for now, for the short term, two different ways of that additional step authentication against your account. For accounts that support passkeys, strongly recommend using a passkey on the device you're on, whether it's a phone, a tablet, or your PC, right? Because that's the most convenient way. It's just, you don't lose anything from a security perspective, but you don't have to be near the phone. The point of the additional sign-in and verification methods that you configure against a Microsoft account or a Google account or whatever account is that if you don't have your phone or you don't have that other thing, there are other ways that they can reach you to give you a code or something to prove that you're you. But by default, you want to use whatever the most convenient method is, right? And so passkeys are absolutely the most convenient method. But there are certain account types that don't support passkeys. Yeah, right. So you still need an authenticator app. And I use a Microsoft Authenticator app for my Microsoft accounts because they just work really well. But Google and a lot of password managers, other companies make their own authenticator apps. And so you want to have this kind of strategy of two different ways of that extra step authentication, right? An authenticator app on your phone and passkeys where possible. And then, of course, all your additional verification and sign-in steps, email, text message, whatever. But It's possible you might work for a company that is security minded, right? Or just has this certain demand, and they want you to be even more secure than that. They want you to have maybe 2 additional steps, right? And in that case, you could use something called a security key. Back in the day, we used to, well, you still see them out in the world, but we used to have security cards. They look like credit cards, very thin. Your laptop would typically have a slot. You could stick it in, and it would be on like a little expandable keychain kind of a deal. They're still around, but these days we use security keys like this Yuba key here. This is kind of the most typical product you'll see out in the world. This particular version is USB-C. There's Lightning versions for older iPhones and iPads. There's, I think there's versions of both. There's USB-A. This device also has NFC, which is a wireless technology. So when I use this with a computer, I'll use the USB-C, but when I use it with a phone, I'll use the NFC typically. It works a lot like that TPM security chip I was talking about, right? So it has secure encrypted storage. You can store some number, I don't know, 30, 50, whatever it is, passkeys for different accounts. So it works a lot like a TPM in a computer, but it's portable, right? You can bring it from device to device. You typically would put this on a keychain, have it with you, plug it in when you need to authenticate. The extra step here is you actually would associate a PIN with this thing, right? So in addition to having this thing that you have, you also have an additional thing that you know, which is a PIN that hopefully is unique to this device. So if you lose this thing, people probably aren't going to break into it, but even if they did, it's encrypted storage. There's nothing they can really do to break into your accounts anyway. And it doesn't matter anyway, because it's encrypted. So it's scrambled and there's nothing to connect it to you in the first place. So it's not great to lose one, but it's also not a tragedy. You don't have to change all your passwords or anything like that. So what does this look like? So to work with this, I'm actually going to use a different computer. This one happens to be set up for a work or school account. That doesn't honestly matter too much, but I'm doing this because I've already set up all my major accounts with the security key. So I'm going to add the security key to Windows 11, right? And this works the same whether you're using a Microsoft account or a work or school account. It doesn't really matter. So if you open the Settings app and go into Accounts, there's a passkey interface, like we said, but in this case, you're going to go into Sign-In Options. And this is where you're going to see your Windows Hello options. Now, on this laptop, I think I have all 3. Yeah, so PIN is not optional with a Microsoft account. That's mandatory. I have a fingerprint reader on this computer, and I have facial recognition set up as well. But I can also sign in with a security key, right? So you have this option to sign in with a security key. So if I click Manage, it's going to ask me to insert this in a USB port, which I'll do. And it's going to ask me to touch it to activate it. So there's almost nothing you can do here. You could reset it. That would put it back to the factory settings. Or you could change the PIN or add a PIN if there isn't a PIN, right? In this case, there is a PIN. I've already done that. There's nothing to do here. This is just here if I need to do something to the key. Because it's like a TPM, there's no like front end interface. There's really not much you can do with this thing, which is kind of interesting. But if you were following along with some of the earlier stuff, this episode and previous episode, you might know that we could go into the Microsoft account website, or we could go into the My Account website, right, for Microsoft Work or School accounts, and we could add another way to prove who I am, which is a sign-in or an additional sign-in or verification step. So I am going to add the security key against my online account now, right? So I do that on the site. Now, in this case, this is not actually the account that I use to sign into the computer. That doesn't matter, but I just want to make sure that's clear. You cannot use a security key to sign into Windows other than the first time you set up Windows on a computer, right? From then on, what you're going to use is Windows Hello, and that means a PIN or your face or a finger, right? That's the most convenient thing. It's right there. It's secure. It's using the secure enclave of the computer. It's just the way to go. There's no way to add that to sign in. But when I pass through to websites, apps, etc., I can use it there. So in this case, it's kind of nice because it's a different account than the one I sign in with. So actually, I might need to use it when I go to a website. So I'll choose security key. This is going to have me do the extra step authentication using the method I've already configured, which for me is the Microsoft Authenticator app on my phone. It puts up a sign-in request, which I approved. And then on the screen, it's just kind of step you through, like, this is what's happening. This is what it means. Again, there are two ways you can do this with a security key, USB or NFC. I pretty much always go USB on PCs. I don't know that I even have one that supports NFC at this point. Just step through the simple wizard. Now you get to choose where we save this passkey. This is interesting to me that it is explicitly saying passkey. You could save it to, you can't save it to the device because, actually you can in some cases, but in this case, there already is a passkey for this account on this device. If there wasn't, that would be a choice. But I'm going to choose security key, right? Because that's what I'm using. And then it will tell you, hey, this is what we're doing. We're setting it up. There's two of these screens. It's just basically explaining, look, we're saving a credential for this account in the secure storage that's on this device, right? So you say, okay, it will ask me to type in the PIN, which again, I've already set up. Now, if this was a brand new key and there was no PIN, Microsoft would require me to add this to the key. Because again, you need that additional step for this physically separate device. So I enter the key. Now you have to touch it. You have to do this, I think, in 10 or 20 seconds. It just proves you're here, etc. And it's saved. That's it. Okay. So I can call this something. I'll call it, Paul's YubiKey. I can't type because I'm going over my normal keyboard here to a laptop, but Paul's YubiKey looks good. And now when I go we'll head back to that page in a moment, but actually I just got a pop-up on my phone in my Microsoft Authenticator app that says new security info added. A FIDO security key was added to your Microsoft account, right? If you didn't do that, you have the opportunity here to say, hey, that wasn't me, what's going on? And then Microsoft can help you secure your account. But it was me, it's all good. So I will pass that through. And eventually what we're going to get back to is that screen that has all of those additional sign-in and verification methods, right? And what will be added here is the security key, right? This is the thing I just did. So now this is a way that I can sign in. Okay. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to close this and we'll do the same thing I've been doing before, right? In other words, I'm going to force the issue. I could probably just do this in Edge. I'm not really sure which account is configured where, but I'll just do a in private window in Edge. Same deal. And I'll go to office.com. And I got to remember which account it was. I got to sign in with the same account. Although I have multiple accounts in that key actually, but I'll just do the one I believe I just did. And then it will ask me to send in a notification. Now, by default, it's going to use the method that I've been using, right? Which in my case has been the Authenticator app. But because I just got this key and I want to start using that instead, I will click other ways to sign in. And one of the options is use Windows Hello or a security key, which again is actually using a passkey. It just depends on where it's stored. If I chose Windows Hello, that would be the passkey stored on the computer, if there is one. If I choose security key, it's the passkey I just saved, in this case, to the security key, which we know we did. So it will give me the option to choose where I want to do that. It can see that there is no security key for this account on the computer, so it didn't give me that option. It will let me do it against a mobile device. Remember, I said that was possible. You could pass that through, but I did do it on the security key, so I want to choose that. And you got to type in the PIN. So this is that additional step. It's kind of like three-step authentication, or three-step verification. It's a multi-factor authentication, right? An additional step. I have to touch that button on the key. It doesn't matter if I stay signed in. It's an incognito window, whatever, in private window. And here I am in the office.com website, right? So passkeys work the same way no matter where they are, right? It's the same style of pass-through authentication. A security key adds an additional step, essentially. And maybe that's the best way to put it. Security keys are portable, but they're a little less convenient, right? They're easy to lose. There's another thing you have to kind of carry around, but a lot of security-minded organizations like to use them. Passkeys, I think, strike the right balance. They're super convenient, super secure. They work really, really well, right? So the final frontier here is mobile. And mobile is tricky. The only major mobile platforms. So Apple's platforms, iPhone and iPad, Android on phones and tablets all support passkeys. They all support security keys too, actually, to some degree, depending on the account type. But looking at Microsoft specifically, it gets kind of complicated. And part of the reason is that Microsoft came at this from a different direction, and they don't own any of the mobile platforms. So from Microsoft's perspective, if you want to do an on-device authentication of you securely, they want you to get the Microsoft Authenticator app right now. I have been testing this in multiple configurations, and technically it is possible, security key, passkey kind of Microsoft account, but it's such a bad experience and it's so inconsistent. And I can't say, look, this is exactly how you do this all the time and it always works. So I don't want to recommend anything here other than to say, use passkeys when you can on your phone or a tablet or whatever. Use the Authenticator app for now with your Microsoft account, because at least you're on the device, right? You may have a little pop-up and it's a little step there, but you don't have to use another device. Based on what they just did in Windows 11 23H2 by adding a passkey management natively to the OS, which by the way is something Apple and Google don't do yet, at least natively as part of the operating system. You can manage passkeys in other ways on those platforms, but not natively in the system. I'm guessing that this is going to get a lot better. So I bet we will revisit this topic sometime in the future, and Microsoft maybe has improved their Microsoft account and Microsoft Work and School account to work, I'm going to say, more natively with passkeys on other platforms. That's my guess. But as of today, I would say stick with the Authenticator app. Okay. I hope this made sense. This is a complicated topic. It's technical and it's security, so it's important to get this right. But hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully this will inspire you to look into passkeys. There's a whole world of passkey information out there, because it's not just Microsoft, right? It's all these other online accounts as well. And so you're gonna see the stuff popping up everywhere. If you haven't already, I'm sure if you're a Google user in any way, you would have seen passkey notifications happening on Windows, right? It's really interesting watching this happen. So there will be more to come for sure in this on this topic. But for now, we will have a new episode every Thursday. You can find out more at twit.tv/HOW. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for your support, especially for those in Club Twit. I appreciate you and the work you're doing to help us stay online. So I will see you again next week. Thanks.